Welcome to the CareerJitsu podcast, where we connect the art of Jiu-Jitsu with your career. Our mission is to empower and inspire you with engaging conversations and valuable insights from people just like you who benefit from the shared relationship between your workplace and the art of Jiu-Jitsu, leading you to a more fulfilling and successful life. We are your hosts, Jason Patterson and Frank D'Amelio, and we are excited to have Steve Lettery today with us. Steve is an IT professional. He is the Director of Franchise Development for Cinch, and he is also a managing partner and franchise owner. Today, Frank, our listeners are going to get some really valuable insight into the connection between Jiu-Jitsu and the career of IT.
Absolutely. And that's why we've been looking forward to this for a long time. So let's kick this off. First of all, Steve, thanks so much for coming in and sharing your valuable time with us. Tell us a little bit about how you got started as an entrepreneur, how long you've been doing it, and then we'll take it into the jiu-jitsu realm.
Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, thanks for having me come on. So far with my IT career, only thing I've done my whole career has been IT. I've been an entrepreneur now for about 8 to 9 months, so I call myself kind of a baby in the entrepreneur side of things right now. But when I first started in the career, I went right out of school where I got all my IT certifications and started applying for IT roles. And really in the IT space right now, I've almost worked every single kind of role you can imagine. So I've started on the help desk to managing projects to managing a help desk to almost managing an entire IT department. And one day I kind of had an epiphany that I decided I want to move more into business development and move more into sales and consulting. So that's what I ended up doing. And then I switched over to Cinch IT about 5 to 6 years ago. Started selling for them, and then I actually moved more into the franchise development space where I started actually heading the entire department of opening up new locations and training the owners and training their sales teams. And yeah, recently, last year, I opened up my own franchise.
You got a great background for it, right? Because you've trained others to do it and
Exactly.
now you're doing it yourself. That's awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about jiu-jitsu? How long have you been in jiu-jitsu and what attracted you to it?
So also a newbie in Jiu-Jitsu. Been in Jiu-Jitsu now, part of Team Link for about a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer. And I got attracted to it because I've always loved watching UFC. It's always been one of my favorite sports to watch. And I think the more I watched it, I was always pretty interested in like the grapple game of it and seeing just how they move and submit. And I just wanted to start to kind of learn how to actually do it myself. So I just signed up one day, came in here for a trial class, and really never looked back after that.
That's awesome. So for our listeners, Steve, we let's get started right with the beginning of your training. I recall the time that you started. Within the first few months, you were picking up things really quickly and easily. You had a background a little bit in powerlifting, so you kind of understood a little bit about how the body works and stuff. And then you were interested in possibly competing, and then you ended up with a shoulder injury. So, what have that has been quite an experience for you, needing to continue training. Even a month into your training, you got injured, and you had to find a way to work around your limitations and be able to continue training in jiu-jitsu with an injury. So can you talk a little bit about what you learned from that injury and if that relates to your profession and how you've been able to adapt or accommodate in your workplace as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the key words is kind of like what you just said, adapt. Obviously hurting my shoulder. I think it was almost my first or my second week coming here. It was just posting wrong and messed up my whole shoulder. But like I said, I got hooked right away on jujitsu and I didn't really want to give up. So I try to find ways to work around it. And I worked different games and realized maybe I can't be so aggressive if I'm on top and posting out to keep balance. Maybe it's easier to just accept it and work around that. So I definitely adapted my jujitsu game because one, I was just enjoying it, and two, like I wanted just to continue to keep doing something I just signed up for. And I think it definitely relates to sales and IT because especially even starting your own business, because not everything goes your way. right? And I think you always have to find ways to get around, not necessarily like a failure, but more of a roadblock. And I've seen that a lot when I'm trying to close maybe a new client, or maybe we're doing a project and we map out this entire scope of exactly how it's going to work out. And then one password doesn't work, or we don't have access to something, and the whole project kind of goes on pause for a second. And what we have to do is adapt and get around it. And same thing that happened with my shoulder here. I've been staying consistent, trying to do as much as I can around it, working it out as I can. And my game might be different than other people, but at least I'm able to keep training and doing what I like.
Yeah, I admire that you being able to continue and persevere through an injury like that and being a business owner because I can't tell you how many times in the past where I've had somebody sign up for classes and within the first few months they get some form of injury. Everybody gets injured at some point. And how many times I've seen those people get frustrated with getting injured so early on in their training and just quitting. Or they come up with some kind of an excuse where because they're a business owner and things got really busy at work, I get a message from them saying, I gotta quit jujitsu now because my workplace got really busy and I can't train anymore. Plus, I hurt my shoulder. You were able to get through both of those. You were able to get through being a new business owner with your work life being extremely busy and having a shoulder injury, you were able to push through those and not quit. And that's very admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like what's unique about you is you say you're kind of a noob in the entrepreneurial world and a noob in jujitsu. Word of the day, another word for noob is tyro. So now you learned a
Oh,
word. Tyro, noob. Um, and you found a way to make time for both of those things is exactly something that is inspirational to other people who say, yeah, I work a busy. I think that's a great point. It's great takeaway value. Um, Kind of building off of that, in your job as an entrepreneur, you have to set expectations. And in jujitsu, you have to set expectations. So I think as a former entrepreneur myself, I know that setting expectations, they never work out the way you want them to.
mhm.
So how do you feel about that relationship between jujitsu and entrepreneurship, where you have this whole plan set out and then things just go awry? Do you have a specific example of something that may have happened to you in jujitsu? Well, the shoulder thing, right? Is there a specific example of that related to your career as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. So when we started up the business, I partnered with my brother-in-law when we opened up the business together. I had more of the sales side. He has more of a technical side to him. So we were kind of like yin and yang on, opening up the business together. When we opened up the business, we had some like potential partnerships in mind on ways that we were thinking we'd hopefully bring on business pretty quickly, just from our own networking and just lines of business that we were both in. And about 1 month, not even after opening up the business, it actually fell through. And a lot of that original pipeline just ended up not working out as we like first anticipated, thinking it was going to. So our expectation of the business is we were going to start running right away with all of these new clients, and it was going to be perfect and like kind of that American dream story, and that was going to be it. And it ended up not happening how it was. So, it was a huge roadblock, and we had to figure out a way to overcome it. And honestly, the way to overcome it was just try to be as consistent that we can with that business. We sat down and figured out, all right, well, we can't just give up, right? Like just because this one thing of our business didn't work out, this wasn't reason why we went into business. So, we adapted to it. We figured out ways that we could bring on more clients, if it was cold calling or walking into businesses or going to networking events and just doing the job, right? Like the original reason why we wanted to open up the business in the first place.
That's great. You mentioned the word consistent. That is one of the biggest challenges in jujitsu. And I think, like you said, it's a big challenge in work too. Being consistent, disciplined, and patient. Those
Yeah.
are those three core values right there.
That's the recipe right there,
Yeah,
right?
those are
It's the
core
magic
values of
recipe.
success and core values of growing and moving forward. So that's really interesting to hear how you have done that in both jujitsu and in your career. So I wanted to touch on a little bit about your job a little more in terms of problem solving and decision making. You know, I know that in IT, there's a lot of problem solving because, I mean, I don't know the profession enough, but I'd imagine that when it comes to technology, there's a lot of different problems that can happen, and one thing can lead to another, and there's a lot of troubleshooting, I guess
Mhm.
I could say. So in jujitsu, we have a lot of troubleshooting, right?
All the time.
So you get in a position, you're like, oh man, I got to troubleshoot this. What if I put my hand here or grab them here or move my hips this way or that way? What do I need to do in this position? So jujitsu is a really good tool for learning problem solving. So how about in your IT profession, have you been able to take some of the problem solving in jujitsu and apply that into your career as an IT professional?
And vice versa.
And vice
Yeah.
versa, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I every day is kind of a different battle, I think, in IT. Some days, things are maybe smooth sailing and everything's working, and then you might have a client that a firewall dies or the email goes down and their computer crashes, and right away, it's a panic for that client. And who do they call? They call the IT company, and that's what we do. So, we've been faced with many, I would say, like emergency situations, and we got to roll a technician on site to get them up and running as fast as possible. And even at the beginning of my career, I was one of those technicians that, maybe one of the senior level techs was busy and we just had to at least show a face of that client. And when you walk into, let's say, a hospital that's down and you're the IT guy walking in and everyone's looking at you, the expectation is you have to be up and running very quickly. And you walk into that server room and you have no idea what might be going on. So I think the relationship between, handling some of those like extreme situations in the IT field compared to jujitsu, it's definitely being able to just stay calm in those situations. I've been in some of those situations where it just has to stay calm. Obviously, I've gone through my certifications. I just have to go through the courses on things that I understand and start troubleshooting. And it's literally the same exact thing here. Like we just had class this morning and I was in a situation that I was getting smothered and I just had to stay calm and kind of go back to the basics, build some frames, try to get my own course back, and ended up working out and I got out of it.
It's the whole comfortable and uncomfortable situations that translates to everything.
Absolutely, Frank.
100%. It's everybody's favorite segment of the show, Tap In Time, where you get to tap in with your comments, feelings, and thoughts. So, thinking about today with Steve, are there some listeners out there that are also in a technical field? Maybe not IT, but a field that is technical, analytical, and you're seeing a lot or you're feeling a lot of resonance to what he's saying, or maybe you have a different perspective. We want to hear from you. Drop a couple of comments, share what you think, and we're looking forward to it. Thanks for participating in Tap In Time. Um, a quick question for you about, is there anything about entrepreneurship or jujitsu that surprised you? That you said, wow, I didn't think it was going to be like this.
Yeah, so when I started the business, obviously we kind of went through some roadblocks that started off right away, right? And it just didn't work out my way. And I think when something doesn't work out your way, you get that immediate stress. And surprisingly enough, when I started jujitsu, I did it as more of like a hobby, right? I thought it was cool. I saw people doing it on UFC, and I knew I'm not going to join UFC, but like I just thought it was fun, and I kind of want to learn to be able to defend myself and things like that. What ended up happening is when I was dealing with so much stress from work, and kind of like what you were saying before, Jason, like people, I think, take in that stress and they almost push other things away. I was finding a lot that jujitsu was kind of like the stress reliever. This was like
Mhm.
really the only thing that I would be able to come to and actually get my mind off of it. Like the entire time where I'm on the mats, at no point was I ever thinking about work. And I also do running and I go to the gym. And if I run or go to the gym, I feel like I was still thinking about work. When again, when I come here, that's the only thing that I was actually keeping my mind on.
I think that is a great point, and that's something that people don't realize. When you go to jujitsu, sometimes people look at it like, well, that's time that I could be being productive, or that's time I could be solving my problems. But really, for anybody who does jujitsu, you know you are in the moment 100% of time when you are in the jiu-jitsu class. There aren't a lot of other activities that are like that. For example, I'm a teacher, but even when I teach, I could still be stressed about things that I have to do when I go home. When I'm on the mat and somebody's on top of me and I'm trying to get out, that's the only thing I'm thinking of.
Mhm.
The time flies, and when you leave, you really do feel de-stressed. I think that's an awesome point.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a few days ago, Steve, we were talking a little bit about some of situations that you may have been in, some stories or circumstances that you may have been involved in where you've been in a high pressure situation. And you mentioned something about a healthcare client that you had dealt with. And you were in one of those sink or swim moments with a healthcare client. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so like I said, it was when I was at the beginning of my career. I think I was just at this IT company. It wasn't Cinch, it was the one before it. I was just like a help desk technician. I might have been there for maybe like a few months. So I was pretty fresh out of school. Just I was a newbie in it, or what did you say?
Pyro.
A tyro. I was
Yes,
a
you were
tyro in
Pyro.
it. And yeah, we had a healthcare client. It was a pretty decent sized hospital, and we had managed their entire network. And one night, their firewall went down, and I was the one on call. So I'm trying to troubleshoot remotely, can't connect to it at all. So I had to go drive on site. And when I got there, it was that feeling of right when I walked in, everyone was looking at me. And they're like, "Yep, IT guy's here. He's gonna get it up and running quick." And I was like, "I hope I will be able to get it up and running quick." Went in there and the firewall was completely dead. Like couldn't turn it on. There was no lights, nothing was happening, and I kind of started to panic. Because again, I was pretty fresh and tried to how to find a way to make it work. And the only thing I was able to do was I luckily had like a spare router in my car, which I'm not going to get too technical the difference between a like a firewall and a router, but brought a router on site, plugged it in, was able to get it really quickly configured while trying to stay calm during that situation. And the entire time I was doing it, I was just trying to think back to like my school and like the courses I took and trying to stick to the basics and going one step at a time. Because I think some people might kind of scatter in those situations and it compares to jujitsu. You might be in a bad position and you kind of do multiple things at once and kind of spaz to try to get out of it. And it's not going to work,
We've
right?
all been there. Yep.
Yep, you're going to gas yourself out and you're going to possibly go into a worse position. And same thing could happen there, right? If I freaked out in a bad situation and I just start putting a bunch of random networking configurations in, I could have made a bigger issue.
Right. Right. Again, having a strategy, right?
Yeah, decision making, problem solving, is being in that high pressure situation, you have to make a decision,
And
like you regardless. I think there was a band, I think it was a band Rush. It's a rock band, Rush.
yeah,
Mm,
Rush,
I
yep.
think one of their
Tom
songs, I can't
Sawyer
remember yeah. I think one of the songs says, if you choose not to decide, you still
still
have
have
made a
made a
choice.
choice. That is
Yeah.
what did it? What is that one?
Tom Sawyer, is
Is
it?
that might
Something?
be.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, our listeners will have to like chime in with a comment on that one.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, uh, one important question for our listeners here. Some of our listeners do jujitsu,
Mhm,
some of them don't.
mhm.
Some of our listeners are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, some of them aren't. What advice would you have to those people out there who have kicked around like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but it's so risky. Or, oh, I want to get into jiu-jitsu, but oh man, I'm not strong enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not fill in the blank enough.
Mhm.
What advice would you give them?
There's never a perfect time to start either, right? Like you just kind of have to start to do it. I feel like I've been thinking about starting my own business or opening up my own franchise for years. And the more I thought about it, I realized like I didn't really know what I was waiting for anymore. I felt like I always had to do something first before I were to go start the business. And I found it just kept getting delayed, delayed, delayed. And it was almost the same thing with jujitsu. Like I actually wanted to start jujitsu earlier, but what happened is I was doing the powerlifting. At the time, I also was running like a few different races. Like I ran a marathon, and I had like goals ahead before jujitsu, and it was always, I'm gonna run a marathon first, and then I'll sign up for jujitsu, or I'm gonna, try to lift this amount of weight, and then I'll get into jujitsu. I kind of found like there's there's almost like I feel like if you're gonna commit to something, You just have to like sign up and do it.
Kind of like Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, some take another thing to wrap things up a little bit here with
Yeah.
sort of some little takeaways here or conclusions. What advice, Steve, would you give to somebody who trains BJJ and wants to use BJJ for a tool for career development in IT? So somebody's interested in the IT field and they, let's just say hypothetically speaking, there's somebody in a class and they're like, oh, I really want to get into IT, and I do jujitsu. What kind of advice would you give to them in terms of, maybe continuing training jujitsu or, how they can apply it to the IT profession?
Yeah, like I said, I think we've talked about so many different ways. I think it syncs, right? Like I think the IT field, and there's a lot of other industries out there, but I think the IT field can be a very stressful field. And I think jujitsu obviously teaches you some of those principles of how to manage stress. Because like I think there's been plenty times that I'm in some pretty bad situations here, and like you kind of get that immediate stress factor built into you. So I think it definitely helps with managing stress. Obviously, there's massive health benefits to it. If you're in IT, I think IT kind of has this image of kind of being like the lazy or out of shape people, and like rightfully so. Sometimes IT people are sitting around on a chair or a desk or staring at a screen. So I think this gives you definitely a really good opportunity to be able to like move your body, learn how to move your body. And again, it's a great workout, right? And I think when we talked about the stress management and now also the health benefits of it, like it's just going to help you mentally at the end of the day.
Mm.
There was some weeks that maybe like I wasn't able to come to jujitsu, like I've like something small, maybe I get like a tattoo that week and I'm not able to come to jujitsu that week. I've found like that following week, I almost feel like my stress was like at a spike because of just not going to jujitsu for like a few days.
Mhm.
And it's definitely like that big relief that you're able to do when you're here.
And a lot of guys in the gym echo that same thing. Like they're like, "This is my therapy. This is my catharsis. This is the way that I deal with the stress in my life." I think that's an awesome point. And I think you've given us a lot of great points. Adaptability, consistency, being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, stress release. I mean, this has been a lot packed into a
Yeah.
short podcast, and I knew it would be.
Yeah,
I
definitely,
knew it would
definitely.
be.
Yeah, I liked the emotional control part that you mentioned, Steve, about how, you were in a high pressure situation and you were like, oh, what am I going to do now to be able to try to solve this problem? And you had that ability to have that emotional control, not get angry, not get upset, kind of remain calm and be able to do your job well. So those are really good, valuable insights for us, Frank, today.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be able to get this out to our listeners. So, to our listeners, are any final things for us for our listeners here, Frank?
Basically, we're looking forward to hearing from you on the comments. So please give us some comments of what you think. Ask questions. You can ask questions to Steve, Jason, or myself, or all of us. We definitely want your feedback. And also, can you do us a favor? If you like this, share it with somebody. We'd appreciate that.
Great. All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you
Yeah,
for coming along.
thank you so
Thank you
much.
guys. This was awesome.
We
All right.
appreciate it. All right. Have a great one, everybody.
Well, there you have it. As we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful connections we've explored between the art of jiu-jitsu and your career. In your workplace and in jiu-jitsu, you learn to adapt and navigate challenges. So remember that persistence and the courage to embrace the lessons that you learn are the keys to your growth both on the mat and in your career.